Evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to give you a shorter video than what I normally do because I want to talk a little bit about this redistricting and gerrymandering. Now, as you are hearing in the news, Texas wants to redraw the boundaries so they can gain seats. And you have Newsom here in California. He's trying to combat what Texas is doing. But if you look at the maps that the Democrats have drawn, particularly in all of the blue states, the Democrats have a lot of House seats. The Republicans are trying to gain 5 House seats, which Jasmine Crockett's seat is one of them, and probably Al Green's seat is another one. But if you look at the redistricting, how do you know it's going to work? Basically, the Democrats are saying, well, you have to wait for the census. Well, there is no law stating that you have to wait for the census. You can do it anytime you really want, unless there's a law out there. I haven't seen it. I've been searching for it, and I cannot find it. But the Democrats are getting up in arms, and Gavin Newsom, because they have an independent committee over there in California, which is made up of Rhino Republicans and some Democrats. And from what I'm hearing from some of the folks in California, they don't want redistricting. In fact, they've already done a lot of gerrymandering. If you look at Illinois, that map, Illinois has got a lot of population. So what Illinois has done, they've done a lot of gerrymandering all the way from Chicago to the western part of Illinois. And that's the top part of Illinois. That's where most of the population is. And most of the population votes Democrat. Now, you look at the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland barely has any Republican representation. And I lived in Maryland. I was born and raised in the state of Maryland. Maryland has always been a Democratic state. Now, lately, there have been a couple of Republican governors outside of the governor ran with Agnew, Spiro T. Agnew. But outside that, yeah, you had Hogan and had another guy. He was my congressman, Bob. I believe that's his name. But other than that, Maryland has done gerrymandering. See, the problem I have with the Democrats is the Democrats want to impose their communism and socialism, and they're bringing it out very, very hardcore. And most of us don't want that. So the Democrats are trying to find a way to actually reduce Republican voters. So the Republicans have decided to do the same thing under Donald Trump, because if Donald Trump weren't there, the Republicans, from my humble opinion, are basically ballless. Now, let me get into my screen sharing, because you need to know the difference between redistricting and gerrymandering. See, people think that they are the same events. They're not. So I'm going to share my screen. And once I share my screen, you're going to get a good definition. Now, what is redistricting? What is redistricting? Well, redistricting is the way we change the districts that determine who represents us. So basically, every member of the U.S. House of Representatives, most of our state legislatures, and many of our local legislatures in towns and counties are basically elected from districts. Now, these districts divide states and the people who live into geographical territories. So basically, the districts are occasionally the same size as the whole jurisdiction, where you have members of a local school board. And for example, each may be elected from an area with the same boundaries as the overall school district that the board governs. So most of the time, though, the school district lines or the district lines, basically, they subdivide the territory so that there are several districts within one city or state and representatives for each separate district. Now, when that happens, we need some way to decide where the lines will be drawn. Now, in the colonial era, many districts were defined by the borders of towns or counties or groups of towns and counties. Now, the legislature was formed by assigning a certain number of representatives to each of these districts. So, for example, New York State's 1777 Constitution assigned 9 representatives to New York City and County, 10 to Albany City and County, 4 to Queens County, 2 to Kings County, and so on. And the infamous Massachusetts gerrymander of 1812 was really just a particular configuration of Massachusetts towns and cities. Now, as the country's population grew, it didn't grow equally, and some towns and countries grew much larger than others. Some jurisdictions kept pace with changing population, shifting the number of representatives assigned to each district, or reconfiguring district lines, and others did not. So basically, sometimes districts stayed the same despite population shifts because of an underlying philosophy. And you had several state Senate systems that were modeled after the federal Senate with representation for counties as such rather than the population therein. And sometimes districts stayed the same because of political advantage or neglect. Now, from 1901 through 1961, the Tennessee legislature simply ignored a state constitutional requirement to redraw district lines. So, in either case, the result was the same, that some districts grew larger than others. Now, by the 1960s, for example, Los Angeles County, the largest district in California, had 422 times as many people as California's smallest district. And because each district in California elected one senator, each person in the smallest district enjoyed 422 times the Senate representation of each Los Angeles resident. So, in a series of cases starting in the mid 1960s, the Supreme Court decided that this sort of population disparity violated the U.S. Constitution, and it required roughly equal population for each legislative district. Now, this meant that district boundaries would have to be periodically readjusted to account for new population information. So now, after the census is conducted at the start of a new decade, district boundaries have to be redrawn. This is the process known as redistricting. Now, the other term we're going to get into is the big one, gerrymandering. Now, gerrymandering is basically the manipulation of electoral district boundaries to favor a specific political party, individual group. It's a practice that can significantly impact election outcomes by strategically drawing lines to either concentrate or disperse voters, potentially leading to a skewed representation. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Well, what is it? Again, gerrymandering involves redrawing the boundaries of electoral districts, often after each U.S. Census, to achieve a desired partisan advantage. Now, you notice what that said after each US census. So, after the 2020 census, see, this is where the Democrats have confused everything. They're believing that you have to wait till the next census comes out to start redrawing your boundaries. No, it's after the census. So, what Trump is doing, he's actually utilizing the redistricting after the 2020 census. See, Democrats don't want the Republicans to get that advantage for the midterms because having a House and Senate is very pivotal for Trump, so he can continue to push his agenda through. Because if the Republicans lose the House, lose the Senate, well, we're going to see what happened when Trump had the first presidency. And, everybody's running on, I hate Trump anyway. And so the reason why I'm bringing this to you, because I want individuals to learn how to be smart voters. Now, again, when we deal with gerrymandering, the manipulation can lead to districts that are oddly shaped or non-compact, making it difficult for voters to understand or feel represented by their elected officials. Now, a politician should not be allowed to draw maps. It should be based on a committee. It should be now. Newsom is having a special election, so he's going to put that on the ballot. Now, I'm going to tell you what, right now, it's going to be voted down. Now, again, the term gerrymandering is derived from the shape of a salamander-like district created in Massachusetts in 1812 during the governorship of Elbridge Gerry. Well, that's where gerrymandering came from. The former governor of Massachusetts named Elbridge Gerry. Now, how does it work? Well, two common gerrymandering tactics are packing and cracking. So you have packing, which you have a concentrating of voters of the opposing party into a few districts, making those districts overwhelmingly favor the opposing party, but leaving the rest of the districts with a smaller proportion of opposing party voters. And then you have cracking, which states that you're going to spread voters of the opposition party across multiple districts by basically diluting their voting power and making it harder for them to elect their preferred candidates. So, by using these tactics, the party in power can basically create a situation where they win more seats than their actual voter share would suggest. Now, why is it controversial? Well, gerrymandering is criticized for undermining democratic principles by creating districts where the outcome of elections is already predetermined, regardless of the overall will of the voters. And it can lead to a lack of fair representation where elected officials may not only be truly accountable to their diverse viewpoints within their districts. And of course, some argue that it can discourage voter participation as voters feel that their vote doesn't matter in a heavily gerrymandered district. Now, examples. Let's look at North Carolina. The state has seen several instances of gerrymandering with court interventions, leading to the redrawing of maps. Well, you look at Illinois, you look at Maryland, California's been doing gerrymandering for a while. You look at Wisconsin, and you also have Texas and Florida. These states are also known for having districts that are heavily skewed by partisan gerrymandering. Now, what can be done? This is what California has. They have what we call an IRC. It's an independent redistricting commission. Now, some states are using independent commissions to draw electoral maps, aiming to remove the partisan influence from the process. As you look at North Carolina, see, they had to use court interventions, and that led to the redrawing of their maps in North Carolina. Now, legal challenges. Basically, there are lawsuits challenging gerrymandered maps. They've already been filed, but the courts have faced challenges in establishing clear standards for what constitutes an illegal gerrymander. So basically, in essence, gerrymandering is a powerful tool that can significantly impact the fairness and representatives of elections, and it remains a topic of ongoing debates and reform efforts. Again, you have states doing some gerrymandering. You have a lot. You have a lot going on. Okay, let me get some more here as we begin to put some more information out. Okay, we can stop this share. We did redistricting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you to some slides. And these slides are basically going to really give you an idea. Now, again, this is going to be a shorter video, but I want you to take away how gerrymandering really works so you can be informed, because I want people, particularly Black people, to be more informed when it comes to voting, because many of us are listening to the news, and the news is just giving you nothing but pure bullshit every night. So let's get into it with this PowerPoint. So we have an electoral geography. Now, we're not a democracy. The left and even the right in this country keep saying democracy. Now, we might have some instances where we use the term democracy, but we're not a total democracy because the majority rules in a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. So basically, I'm going to say in this republic, this constitutional republic, politics must follow legally prescribed rules, but all parties to the political process often find ways of bending the rules to their advantage. Case in point is the drawing of the legislative district boundaries. So the boundaries basically separating the legislative districts in the United States and other countries are redrawn periodically to ensure that each district has approximately the same population. Understand that boundaries must be redrawn because migration inevitably results in some districts gaining population while others are losing population. However, the 435 districts of the U.S. House of Representatives are redrawn every 10 years, following the Census Bureau's release of the official population figures. And this is why Donald Trump wants to kick all the illegals out, because the illegals create a larger population, because once the Democrats give them free everything, illegals are going to vote for the Democrats. We all know it. This is why the Democrats are having an issue right now with ICE, calling ICE terrorists. Now, the process of redrawing legislative boundaries for the purpose of benefiting the party in power is called gerrymandering. So you had redistricting and you had gerrymandering. Now, again, the term gerrymandering was named for Elbridge Gerry. He was the governor of Massachusetts, the vice president of the United States. So, as governor, Gerry signed a bill that redistricted the state to benefit his party. An opponent observed that an oddly shaped district looked like a salamander, whereupon another opponent responded that it was a gerrymander. A newspaper subsequently printed a cartoon of a monster named Gerrymander with a body that looked like the district. And you know what? This is exactly what they're talking about. You see how oddly that shape is? That's what gerrymandering looks like. You don't have squares and trapezoids, you have irregular shapes. But that's what is being talked about, the salamander. Now, gerrymandering, you need to understand this, it takes place in three forms. There's the wasted vote, and it basically spreads opposition supporters across many districts, but in the minority. Then you have the excess vote. It concentrates opposition supporters into a few districts. Then you have the stack vote. The stack vote links distant areas of like-minded voters through oddly shaped boundaries. And that's what you have with the salamander shape. Now, looking at the first one known as the wasted vote. Well, if we look at the wasted vote gerrymandering spreads opposition supporters across many districts as a minority. So if the blue party controls the redistricting process, it could create a wasted vote gerrymander by creating 4 districts within a slender majority of blue party voters and 1 district with a strong majority of red party voters. And you look at this is exactly what they're talking about. Exactly what they're talking about. Now, you have, and this is where, if you look at it right here, this is where the blue controls everything. Now you have the excess vote, and that concentrates opposition into a few districts. So if the red party controls the redistricting process, it could create an excess vote, creating 4 districts with a slender majority of red party voters and 1 district within an overwhelming majority of blue voters. So basically, blue, they use the wasted vote. Red, they use the excess vote. But now you got the stack vote. And this is what the red is most likely going to use because, again, you see how it links distant areas of like-minded voters through oddly shaped boundaries. So in this example, the red party controls redistricting and creates 5 oddly shaped districts, 4 with a slender majority of red voters and 3 with an overwhelming majority of blue voters. And basically, the job of redrawing boundaries in most European countries is entrusted to independent commissions. That's what California has. So commissions typically try to create impact homogeneous districts without regard for voting preferences or incumbents. A couple of US states, including Iowa and Washington, also use independent or bipartisan commissions. But California in there as well. But in most US states, the job of redrawing boundaries is entrusted to the state legislature. Now, if you look at Texas, I believe they have a majority of the state legislature, like the majority of people in the state legislature. And like the Democrats, they didn't want any votes, so they left the state. But you see, the Democrats do it all the time. The Republicans don't leave the state. The Democrats want to hold off the vote so the Republicans don't, in their mind, they're going to call it cheating, which there's nobody that cheats any more than the Democrats. So what the Democrats want to do is they want to hold off that Republican vote in Texas. And then if they hold out too long, the Democrats believe that they'll kill the whole vote. Well, the vote will come back again. And everybody knows it. So basically, Gavin Newsom, he wants to counteract what the Republicans are doing in Texas. So what's Texas have to do with California? Nothing. And see, Newsom is trying to run for president, but I guarantee the way he's ripped California's economy apart, I don't see anybody voting for Newsom. Not here in the Midwest, maybe on both coasts, but you have to look at everything when it comes to politics today. Politics is based on partisan politics. So again, with the redrawing of boundaries, it's the state legislature that has control over what goes on in their states in most states. Now, the political party in control of the state legislature naturally attempts to redraw boundaries to improve the chances of supporters in their districts to win the seats. So political parties frequently offer completing plans designed to favor their candidates. Now, no gerrymandering in Iowa. Now, Iowa does not have gerrymandered congressional districts. Each district is relatively compact and boundaries coincide with county boundaries. So a nonpartisan commission creates Iowa's districts each decade without regard for the past boundaries or impact on incumbents. Well, Iowa, for the most part, besides Des Moines and Waterloo and Council Bluffs, it's not a lot of population in Iowa. It's a Midwest state. You put Des Moines, maybe Waterloo, Iowa. You put Council Bluffs, Iowa. Well, I think it's Council Bluffs, Iowa. You put all those cities together, they still won't even give you near the population of Chicago. So basically, something else you need to add to the mix. The stack vote gerrymandering has been especially attractive for creating districts inclined to ethnic minorities because the two largest ethnic groups in the United States are African Americans and Hispanic, and they tend to vote Democratic. Now, in some selections, more than 90% of African Americans vote Democrat. Creating a majority African American district virtually guarantees the election of a Democrat. Republicans support a stacked Democrat district because they are favorable to their candidates in the rest of the state. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled gerrymandering illegal in 1985, but did not require dismantling of existing oddly shaped districts. And in 2001, we allowed North Carolina to add another oddly shaped district that ensured the election of an African American Democrat. Through gerrymandering, only about 1/10 of the congressional seats are competitive, making a shift of more than a few seats unlikely from one election to another in the United States, except in some unusual circumstances. So basically, there's different ways they can probably figure this gerrymandering out, but the Democrats, I don't know why they keep crying about it, because the Democrats have always utilized gerrymandering to get their way. This is why most of the cities in these populated states, people overwhelmingly vote Democrat. That's where you have a lot of your minorities. And see, with the minority districts always in play, minority districts will help the Democratic candidate, particularly if the Democratic candidate is a Black or Hispanic, maybe even an Asian. The bottom line, in so many rural areas, red states, they don't have the population. This is why, if you look at the presidential election, to get electoral college votes, and basically the system is a winner takes all system. If the Democrats win California and New York, they're already 1/3 of the way to 270. So that means in order for the Republicans to actually make that up, with I'm dealing with the electoral college now. They're gonna have to win Texas, win Florida, but even winning Texas and Florida, that's going to give them right around 65. So, but if you win California and New York, that's 84. So they're going to have to win another state. So that's where you have to combine Pennsylvania, which that would give them. So the Republicans are going to have to win more states. Now, I know other states, Florida, They're going to find a way to gerrymander so the Republicans can keep the House and Senate. Again, the Republicans are the party in power. The Democrats should know this. The Democrats really don't have anything to offer any of us. That's why they have a problem with everything that Trump does. Now let's see if I can find some more here. It looks like it's all that's all it. So again, basically, when it comes to politics, what I want you all to do is understand how the system works, because many of us that I hear on YouTube, I know when they research something and I know when they don't. They basically regurgitate what they hear from CNN, MSNBC. Now, speaking of MSNBC MSNBC is now changing their name to MS Now, because what happened to MSNBC, the logo, the peacock, NBC is taking that back, where MSNBC is no longer going to be part of NBC. But here's the problem. Until you get rid of the individuals on the new MS Now, and that's going to change later this year, all they're doing is rebranding a liberal channel, but nobody watches it. And this is why you cannot rely on mainstream media for all of your information. You can't always rely on YouTube for all of your information either. See, this is why, I put up PowerPoints, because I'm giving you the information and you can go and look up the information for yourself. And you don't even have to use Google all the time. You can use ground.com, because when it comes to parties out here, certainly the midterms, they're coming up. But you have to look at some of the mayoral races. I'm looking at Winston Sears. She's running for governor in Virginia. So she is just a little bit behind in the polls to a Democrat. So you have two females running for governor in Virginia. Winston Sears is a Black woman who was a Republican, very smart. She was also a veteran. And I'm hoping you Virginians don't vote for anybody with any communist ties. I mean, you have that nitwit up there named Jay Paul from Washington State. See, the problem I have with the Democrats have no plan. I mean, they admit right now, and they're coming out boldly with it, that they are Marxist and they are socialist. Now, it's funny, the state of Oklahoma, you're coming from California and you're coming from New York, they're going to make you take a test. They're not going to hire you because they don't want people from New York and California coming in trying to indoctrinate their students. Now, I hear everything about DEI. Now, let me tell you something. I believe in a diversified workforce. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you start putting people in positions because of their race, their identity, then you erase a lot of qualified people. Now, affirmative action, DEI, I'm just going to tell you this, it did not benefit the Black man at all. Benefited everybody else. Now, if you're a veteran like myself, okay, did I get some benefit? But for the most part, I didn't. Now, if you're a woman and you have a business, particularly an engineering business, because I am in the field of engineering, well, you're going to get an advantage right there because you can get an MBE cert, you can get a DBE cert. What if you were a veteran? You can get that certification as well. Because I know in the transportation sector, particularly if you're working for a DOT and you're an engineering firm, 25% of the government contract money goes to minorities. That's a big chunk of change. So that means a prime contractor has to hire a subcontractor that is a minority. Because if they don't, they're going to have to explain to the client, could be a DOT, why they didn't. There are DBE goals. So what people don't understand. And when you go out and vote, you have to know what you're voting for. What the Democrats are really running on, they're running on nothing. They're making up lies as they hear themselves give opinions without research. They're running on emotion. They're running on creating a world in their head because they don't like Trump. Bottom line is, nobody did more deportations than Obama. Obama even had kids in cages. It's funny they don't say that. And, some hypocrisy as well. Look at the Sha'Carri Richardson story. She assaulted her boyfriend. She still has that Nike contract. Now, that took place a week ago. You think about it, it's off the table. See, this is why I don't like voting for Democrats, because they're hypocrites. You look at Ray Rice. I remember when he played for the Baltimore Ravens, wore number 27. It was in Super Bowl 47. He had a little calamity with his wife, and his whole football career went down the drain. But did Sha'Carri Richardson's career go down the drain? No. And when it comes to Nike, you know who buys more Nike? It's not the black women, the black men. Now, I don't have Nike, I have Brooks. I decided I don't want to buy Nike. I don't like Nike. But the bottom line is, in this country, you have a number of women who talk about equality, but they get away with a hell of a lot more than what we men will ever get away with. And they're making it out like they are oppressed. They're not oppressed. See, again, feminism has really done a job on both men and women in this country. And I'm telling you this because if you think about voting, I don't see a number of women or hear a number of women talking about the economy because they don't know anything about the economy. The reason why the Democrats, there was no red wave in 2022 is because the abortion issue. And you have women who've never had kids who are talking about abortion being a right. And then you have some men following right behind them. This is why we wanted to get rid of that woke culture. This is why it's very important that now I'm not in favor of both parties, because both parties, the Democrats really have gone far off the deep end. But I'm not saying the Republicans are there either. Republicans, what they've done is they are starting to play a little bit of ball here because of Trump. If Trump wasn't in power, President Trump wasn't in power, the Republicans would be rubber legged. They'd be running for their lives because they're always afraid of being called racist. And they have allowed themselves to be bullied by the Democrats every political cycle. Now, of course, the Democrats, when you put Mondami, and then you have this sand nigga up there from Somalia, he's talking about being a mayor of Minnesota. Minnesota, what the hell are you all doing up there? So you're going to vote communist into your states. That tells me something about people. Now, I really do believe that a number of people in this country are pretty stupid. They, I see them on news now. I'm just going to say this about the mainstream media. When I hear Hakeem Jeffries get up there and talk about the economy, these politicians up there, they know nothing about business. They barely know about law, and they went to law school. They don't know interest rates. They don't know anything about making money. But they're rich as hell. And all I keep hearing them is tax cuts for the billionaires, tax cuts for the billion. Everybody gets a tax cut if you pay taxes. Now, some, they're going to get more than others. But the bottom line is this: you have to understand that in a society, capitalism, we're not going to have equity. That's communism. Communism is where the government, and I've done many videos, go back and watch them. What I'm afraid of is you have a number of these young people out here. And these young people, they believe in communism. They don't even know what it is. And you know, the people who I'm seeing out there doing a lot more to protesting, believe it or not, let's go back. Let's talk about this Washington, D.C., where they're bringing the National Guard in. Well, you know what? Surprisingly, the black people in D.C., particularly, and I've driven through D.C. many times, Benning Avenue, Minnesota Avenue, the black people are enjoying right now their 30 days of peace because President Trump only sent the National Guard in for 30 days. That's it. And after 30 days, they're going to see what happens. What he wants to do, he wants to make people safer. Now, people say he's in the Project 2025. I was driving behind somebody yesterday here in Indianapolis, and somebody had a bumper sticker, Stop Trump's Project 2025. Well, these are a lot of your people out here are very ignorant. They listen to what the mainstream media says, and you want to know who the most stupid people are? White people, white liberal people. They're the ones out there. They don't know anything about gerrymandering. They don't watch channels like mine who explain it to you. They listen to mainstream media, and they're looking at Yahoo and Politico and Newsweek. That's where they're getting their information from. The problem is all the digital media and the mainstream media, they're all slanted left. But see, the media knows this. But you know what? Corporate media is going down the drain. CNN is next. The View is next. Now, you know, I've talked to some people out there and they said, well, the polls out there. It's another thing. The polls. They're on the mainstream media. Trump is not doing well in the polls. Well, he's not going to always be at 50%. But again, you have to look at the polls. What's in that poll? Most people don't know what's in the poll. See, the mainstream media, they're only going to tell you what they want you to know. And then you're going to go and regurgitate it. See, with the mainstream media, though, it's getting all washed out. You look at NPR, look at PBS. The bottom line in this country, this, you have a number of people who are voting on emotion. That's the problem. Americans are not, most of them are not very smart. They lack common sense. They lack focus. I mean, I can see all the comments when I go and read Yahoo. They all sound like the same talking points that come off of CNN. Bottom line is this: people need to educate themselves. And it's not just the national elections you need to be concerned with. What about your local elections. Don't understand that. Bottom line is you need to understand the ballot initiatives. Most people don't even look at the ballot initiatives. I guarantee you, most people don't even know who their Congress people are, their district is. Now, see, here in Indiana, I know they want to add a seat, but what's it going to do for Indiana? It's already a red state. Ohio has turned red. North Carolina. North Carolina, it's getting funny because a lot of people who are coming from the bluer states are moving to North Carolina. They're moving to Georgia. This is why uh, President Trump wants to change the census so he doesn't have to worry about illegals. Because the census is going to determine how many seats you have. Now, again, there is no law that says you have to reapportion or redistrict your maps right after the new census is put out. You can do it before the midterms. So there's no law, and that's all Texas is doing, and it's 5 seats. Now, for the most part, we don't even know if it's going to work or not. I mean, with the Democrats, they have a commission. And if you look at some of these states, you look at Maryland, Maryland has 10 or 11 electoral college votes. And I saw that map that Maryland had, and it used to go straight up I-95 from DC all the way up into Harford County. That map is going all the way out there to Hagerstown, which is in Washington County. Now, you don't have a lot of people out there in Hagerstown, Maryland. Yeah, you're getting stacked people out there in Frederick. And then that map goes all the way across the Chesapeake Bay and to places like Wycomico County, where Salisbury is in Dorchester County. And even down there as far as St. Mary's, you don't have a high population of people down there. Well, you had a lot of people that were red down there, so they want to filter all of the representation that's red out there in Maryland, so they won't even have any Republican representation. Bottom line is, the Democrats have been doing gerrymandering all along. But now that the Republicans doing it now, the Democrats want to bitch about it. The Republicans didn't get up and leave their call of duty when the Democrats did it. See, the problem with the Democrats is they're a bunch of children. They've had their way for a long time, and they're used to getting their way. So when they're feeling the heat, they want to complain. And that's all they're doing. And the funny thing too, when I see a number of women going out there and a number of men who are liberal, what are they using? They're using TikTok. I don't even have a TikTok page. Now there's another page out there called Scoops, I believe it's SPOOCPS. It's just like TikTok. That's out. So you have a lot of people. See, social media has really turned humans into something different. Number of people. This is why I don't go on these panels here on YouTube. Yes, I do give a shout out. Tito, Salty Balls, Machismo TV. Give a shout out to Mr. O with the info. Definitely give a shout out to those guys. Those guys come up late at night and they do provide you with good news source. Or some black people who are getting it. And it's not just black men, it's black women. See, a number of individuals are calling black men out because they voted for Trump. What about the black women? 10% of the black women did vote for Trump. And you have a number of them, again, in DC. They like what Trump's doing. See, the problem is when you're black, blacks will tell you that they have this, well, we're not monolithic, but technically they are for the most part. Most of them vote for the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has done nothing for them. We haven't gotten our reparations yet. I believe reparations for us, we should be able to go to work and not have to pay taxes. That's what we should get as reparations. Or we should be able to get, we should be able to get, and this is just wild thinking, some kind of grant to start business. You know, you see these white folk out there talking about leaving the system up in Appalachia, starting their own towns. And, blacks are bitching about that. But, down in Georgia, they got a town down there. It's all black. Because I was watching a YouTuber by the name of Fatty. He had a woman on there, Dumquisha. It's her name. She has a channel out. Now, I don't know if she was looking for the attention, but she asked Mr. Fantastic about black towns. And I wish Mr. Fantastic had answered that question. See, I already know 3 black towns in the state of Maryland: Mitchellville, Largo, Upper Marlboro, all black, upper class blacks. But here's the problem: they're only residential, no black businesses. And see, and on that show, I know OG Jay Speed said, "Oh yeah, there are Asian-owned hospitals." That may be true, but you have to look at everything. We can have our own businesses, but guess what? We're still under a system that's run by mainly white people in this country. We are. And the blacks that are running everything, they're running their cities into the ground. They got a shot. And they only vote one party. You look at people like Karen Bass. Look at that character in Chicago. Then you got he looks like a little young boy in Baltimore. You got Wes Moore, governor of Maryland. You look at Keisha Bottoms. Look at Bowser at DC. And what happened? Just had a black woman, the mayor. She's in some trouble. Bottom line is this: we will never have any power as black people. Certainly we can buy land. But see, we don't even work together. I mean, we can dream up of all these ideas. We may have individual business, but we need to understand how the government works. We need to understand how taxes work. We need to understand how the markets work. See, a number of people really don't understand how the markets work. You ask any of them about interest rates, and that's anybody, black, white, they don't have any clue about interest rates because they're buyers. Again, you have a number of people today who they're very materialistic and they think they've made it, but all the tangible items that they have, what are they worth? Most likely nothing. You have useless college degrees. The problem is that woke culture took over everything. It destroyed everything. That was a big problem. Individuals don't understand that. You know, when you deal with public out here, you just have people out here who just don't pay attention to anything. They don't use common sense. Feminism. And if you think about it, who really started feminism? Going back to the Shirley Chisholm days, I really believe that Black women started feminism. I really do. They've always wanted a type of matriarchal structure. Matriarchies don't work unless you have somebody to enforce it. And that's going to take a man because a woman is not going to be able to enforce it. And one of the reasons why I believe President Trump won the overwhelming male population is because, and I'll include it in that, I did not want to see a woman run this country because it's already we're already in a hypergamy state anyway. Everything is already woman friendly. I've been watching these army commercials. I mean, they're putting women on jumping out of planes. Women don't do that. They're putting them on just to show everybody that women can be soldiers. Didn't say they couldn't be soldiers. And I didn't even say that women couldn't do the jobs that men can't do. They won't do them because they're dirty jobs. And when women talk, they base everything on what they can do. In other words, they'll tell you that we can do everything that a man can do, but they've only seen maybe a few people, or they base it off to the exception. This is why you have to understand what's going on out there. Most people don't understand what's going on. The reason why they don't understand what's going on, because number one, they're stuck in delusion, arrested development. They're very, very, you have a number of insecure women out here and a number of insecure men out here as well. Because they listen to what the liberals tell them out here. Michael Savage said this liberalism is a mental disorder. It is a mental disorder. It's filled with illusion. It's filled with hate. Because that's really what this is all about. These protesters are paid. All these liars are paid to be on national TV. They're paid. I mean, when Kamala Harris was running for president, you can see all the lies she told. And see, because of the mainstream media, people like Hakeem Jeffries, Cory Booker, they keep running the mainstream media telling you how bad the economy is. They're trying to fool folks. They're using fear mongering. But the bottom line is, if you're trying to win, you're going to come up with something better. This is why Obamacare is not going away. Because there's nothing better out there. Now, did Obamacare raise some people's premiums so we could give people who don't have insurance something? It did. But until there's something better out there, you got to keep it. This is what people don't understand. Looking at how the United States, how markets work, I have a number of people out here who aren't business minded. Now, of course, they're getting ready to cut the interest rates. So you have most people who are used to things being the same, no change. So when there's change, even if the change is better, they don't want to feel that pain. It's like the workplace. And let me tell you how to deal with the workplace, because I had somebody tell me when I was working for the city of Indianapolis. I don't work for the city of Indianapolis anymore. I was also working for the city of Elkhart. Had a guy that told me, well, you shouldn't speak up. And he voted for Kamala Harris, but he's a good dude. I'm not going to put his name out there. But I did have to tell him, I said, yeah, tell me who I voted for, but who you voted for. Look at your situation. You married a woman. She decided to adopt her grandchild, even if you didn't want it, because her son and the baby's mother were on drugs. And now you got stuck in it with her. She's getting a divorce. And no matter what you can do, she's taking half your shit. Because you married somebody that saw, and she was probably doing the right thing. Bottom line is, brother, remember you told me I was brainwashed for voting for Mr. Trump. No, I wasn't brainwashed. You brainwashed. Look what happened to you. But you did tell me my old employer. Don't say anything. Yeah, you have to say something. That's the bottom line. See, it's not me, because I work in the civil and construction engineering industry. I can go in there, and it's a good old boy system. It's a click. Is it hard for some blacks to get in? Certainly, especially if you're smarter than they are. But you can get in there. But when you're in the workplace, it's not for you to take shit. I'm not kissing the boss's ass just to keep a job. It's not going to happen, Cat. Now, I will respect authority and I will respect what's being said. I will respect the work policies. But just because you have a title, it does not mean that you can bully me. And the problem with the workplace today, it's a lot more kissing ass. It's people who are less, in my humble opinion, they're less and less professional. I mean, I look at it now. We used to dress when we went into the office. People don't dress. They don't look clean. They don't present themselves properly. And that's a lot of jobs. Bottom line is, you go in there, you do your job. It's too cliquish. And the way you avoid the clique is you come in, you work with the team, and you go home. However, know who you are. Don't change for people who aren't going to change for you, or who are going to change to meet the agenda of what the workplace has established. That's the problem. The workplace is very corrupt. Don't change your character, because in the end, if you change your character, then you become just like them. Don't allow yourself to be hung up. Workplace is very evil. I'm just going to tell you that right now. In fact, the workplace is part of the 5 power conferences of society. Religion is evil. Media, and that includes social media, it's all evil. It's all lies, propaganda. But what you do is you go in there to work, you document everything. You have a meeting, you sit down there with your bosses, you document. If you're dealing with unruly coworkers, you document it. That's what you do. You document the date and you document the time that the event took place. That way, if you're sitting in front of human resources, you got your documentation. Problem with the workforce, it's fucked up. Everything that the left has gotten their grimy hands on is screwed. And it's all the five power conferences of society: government, education, the workplace, media, and religion. Those are the five pillars of society. And the left has messed it up. Got too many people out there who have got themselves caught up. You look at the dummies out there. You hear this Mamdani character. He wants government grocery stores. One in Kansas City failed. Weren't getting that many people in that government grocery store. In fact, you had people stealing stuff out of that government grocery store. See, behind all that communism that some of these knuckleheads are talking about, they don't tell you the failures of it. But communism has killed a lot of people. But when you have individuals that are looking to get something for nothing, they're not thinking about that. And see, that's all the Democrats want. They want to continue to bring that woke culture to the United States. And many of them hate this country. You know, if they went over to a dictator like Putin, Putin's been in power for 30 years. I can see some of them getting massacred over there. Putin's a nut. Pol Pot was a nut. Mao Zedong was a nut. Genghis Khan was a nut. Stalin, a nut. Yeah. Hugo Chavez, a nut. You had a lot of them out there. Cuba, all of them nuts. They talk against capitalism, but you look at their countries, they're all screwed up. I don't want to live in a country that's all screwed up. That's why you got to understand the workplace. Best thing for people to do in the workplace, like if you're black and you're in a field like mine, and if I say something and they're figuring out to hire another black, that's fine. We'll find another job. Because I know I always told, well, if I say something to my boss, at that time my supervisor, that I'm hurting another black, they won't hire blacks. Well, that's discrimination. I mean, they can get around it. I mean, like I said, this country has a lot of evil people. Bottom line is this: you need to understand what's going on in this country. You need to understand the workplace. You need to understand that just because somebody's on social media doesn't mean they are a celebrity, because you have a number of people who are putting their business out on social media. Social media has really taken away human contact, real human socializing. That's why dating doesn't work now. Why it's going through dating apps. You need human conversation, real human conversation. But again, you have people out here, they don't care. A lot of people are gullible. Drones. And when you hear them talk and you challenge their points, they want to call you names. You notice the Democrats, the liberals, they got to bang on everything. They got to curse. They got to call names. They're children. These are individuals who don't understand what's going on. They think somebody's taking something away from them. You have to understand that in this country, I mean, you look at what goes on, domestic violence. Men have always been blamed for domestic violence, but it's bi-directional, particularly with black men and black women. The only reason why that black woman gets away with it because she's going to use the system, and then she's going to get her brothers, somebody. But the brothers and uncles that are coming, I will tell them this, and you may come after me, but you're going to do the same thing. The same thing's going to happen to you. I mean, I remember back in the days, black women used to call the Black Panthers to come beat up their husband. So I'm not saying all black women. The number of black women, they believe in feminism so much, they tell you they don't need a man. They utilize big daddy government. Then you get some of them out there who believe that, well, we carry the kids. Yeah, we fertilize the kid. And when it comes to teaching, yes, a society can rise no higher than the character of its women. Women are supposed to be the teachers, but they're not teaching. They're not preaching. They're trying to be men. Everybody knows it. But in the end, all you individuals out here who don't understand the real world, you're going to feel that pain. Many of you can have all the opinions you want. People with all opinions are the ones who are broke, the complainers, the ones who envy, the ones who want to take from people who have. Why? Because they don't know how the world works, because they're dependent people. And my thing is, when you go to work, deal with like-minded people. When you start a business, deal with like-minded people. You got somebody that wants to be challenge you all the time. There's nothing wrong with your views being challenged. But if you're going to be in an argument all the time, that's toxic. Stay away from toxic relationships. What you need to do. If they got kids, stay away from the single mothers. Stay away from the grandmamas. You know what a grandmama is? Grandmama is a woman. She's a grown woman. She's got a grandchild, but she decided to have another child late. You don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with anything. And women too. You don't want to deal with anybody that's got some potential chaos. Don't deal with it. Care how fine the man looks or how fine the woman looks. Bottom line, you got to know where you stand. You got to know what's best for you. Don't take anybody else's word for it. And don't let them lie to you so they can feel good. Now, I've seen a couple YouTubers or they lie to make their situation feel good. No, don't buy it. Bottom line is know who you are. That's it. But understand the basics, how this country works. You need to understand the government. If you go to work, you need to understand your workplace. You need to also understand that everybody out here is not your friend, even your family members. A lot of fake people out here. And these fake people, they want to try to take you down because they're jealous of you. They'll put everything out there. And that includes your family. Blood is thicker than water, yes. There's always your so-called friends and family out there that are looking to tear you down. My message to a number of people is this. I'm just going to say this before I end this video. Grow up. Many of you, and I see particularly you white liberals out here, don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're in your feelings. You don't read. You're too stupid. You've allowed the mainstream media and social media and everything around you that's particularly on the left side of the political spectrum to really mess your mind up. And in the end, we don't want to hear your opinion. We don't even want you voting. And I'm not talking about just women, but men too. And I'm talking about and I'm not saying all the Democrats are bad because you got some bad Republicans. Bottom line is this: smart people have common sense. It's not about your degree, not even about where you came from. It's where you're at. Bottom line is this: all you have to do, and I'm just giving you my perspective. Other people might have a different perspective. Don't let anybody define you. The only person that you have to prove something to is yourself. The bottom line is this: know who you are, know where you're going. Make sure you have the resources, but even before you have the resources, make sure you have a realistic plan. Always admit when you fail. There are a number of people who want to be right all the time. You're not right all the time. Always admit that you have fallacies. See, as an adult takes ownership. A child doesn't. So the people that you were arguing with or trying to be right, it's a number of these women out here, regardless of what race, they're children. They're trying to be right, even when they're wrong. Bottom line, you got to leave them behind. Don't waste your time with them. Be red pill. Navigate yourself through this system. Because in the end, besides God, maybe some people in your circle, maybe, in actuality, only person that you have to really, besides God, to look out for is you. You can be part of the team, like they tell you at work, teamwork makes the dream work. Most part, it's not teamwork. That's all a lie. That's what they came up with in the 90s. Because in the end, you're the individual. You're not going to work for anybody else. You're not doing anything for anybody else. You're doing it for you. Now, reach out and give a helping hand when you can. You really cannot be. You got to be selfless. However, you still got to think of yourself where you want to go. Why? Because people are so fake. They act like they're going to do something for you, and they will never do anything for you. So look at the situation, make a situation based on what's in front of you, what's behind you, and what's on the sides of you. Do not have tunnel vision, because if you have tunnel vision, you're blind. And when you're blind, you're going to get caught with your pants down. Because in the end, like Reggie Jackson said a long time ago, who played for the A's, the Orioles, the Angels, the Yankees. So the only person you have to impress is you. Period. But have character and understand truth. Why? Because the truth always set you free. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, I give you daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. Here on the 401 Talk Zone radio show channel, you can find me right here on YouTube. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter. You can also find me on Truth Social and, of course, Rumble. Now for the QCIS channel. You can find me right here on YouTube. In fact, I'll be doing a video tomorrow, but it won't be social and political content. It will be STEM content. You can find me on YouTube tomorrow. You can also find me on X, formerly Twitter. Also find me on LinkedIn. And like I said, I want to be truthful, and I don't want people to be offended. Just understand who you are. And don't be envious of what people have, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And don't try to take what people have. And this is why I came up with this saying: always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what no one else has. But always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. And if you don't like the shoe, just change it. And what I'm talking about is this: if you are offended, that means I hit a nerve. But if you're not offended, you don't have to say anything about it. But if you are, make the change. It's simple, real simple. We're not perfect, we're human. But in the end, it's all part of being an adult. Finally, thank you for listening to this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful, gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.